Deadlifts and rows are not growing your traps. You're frustrated, so that's why you're here today, to get some thick traps. I'm John Jewett with J3 University. We elevate physique education standard. And I want to cover today why the traditional lifts might not be growing your traps, the anatomy of the trap and function, and giving some insight into the exercise that you should be doing to grow your traps, then how to program that into your hypertrophy program. So with the trap, from a bodybuilding perspective, we mainly want to improve this to give that thickness to our rear double bicep and also our rear lat spread. Now, your traditional lifts, your deadlifts, your rows, for many individuals, that's going to be completely adequate to grow your traps as they do function in those movements. However, you might need some more direct work if that's just not a strong body part for you. We can look at some of the issues with these movements or why they might not be giving you enough of that stimulus. For one, in the deadlift, the traps are basically serving as an isometric contraction. You're not really going through active contractile range with them. In a row, absolutely the traps work, 100%. The scapula is moving, it's retracting, protracting. However, you could easily reach a failure point in the arm musculature before the traps are adequately fatigued and actually reach their failure point. For some, that stimulus away from failure is more than enough to grow the traps. For others, it's not. Or you might see the guy with big arms and no back. Yep, if you're that guy, you might not be going through retraction, protraction at all. Now, the dumbbell shrug, that very well could be in place. However, you might only be training a small segment of the trap and not the full aspect of that retraction piece, the mid and lower trap fibers. So let's look at the anatomy of the trap. We see there's a upper, a mid, and a lower segment. For general purposes, this just retracts the scapulas towards the spine. Also, traps function in upward elevation of the scapula and some depression as well. So it's just gonna move the scapula back, up, and down. So any movements that do that are gonna be really well suited for that muscle group to function. If we look at the anatomy too, if you see that retraction from the side view, you see his arm is basically in a row position, functions really good to train it in that plane. However, if we look at just an upward elevation of the scapula, like a dumbbell shrug, you see it really is only hitting these kind of very high upward trap fibers, and actually the levator scapulae muscle that lays underneath the traps gets trained in a really good line. There's also the levator scapulae muscle, which is underneath the trap, and also the front, the sternocleidomastoid, which also functions in raising up and elevating the shoulder. So if you're only doing dumbbell shrugs, you might be limiting, not getting a lot more stimulus for that mid or lower trap fibers, which you might want to be training. Now, if we remove the traps from the back, you can actually see the rhomboids underneath. People say, how do I train my rhomboids? Well, the rhomboids also function in some retraction and some scapula elevation as well. We see in this retraction movement, hey, the rhomboids get hit really good too. So what trains the mid-back muscle really well is this horizontal movement, this retraction to occur. So how do we put that into an exercise? So this is where we enter into the Kelso Shrug. And I'll demonstrate this on a T-bar row, which a T-bar row is great because it's in a horizontal plane. The arms are out about 90 degrees from the body. And once you reach your failure point on your T-bar row, all you simply need to do is, I recommend keeping a slight elbow bend. It feels a little bit more comfortable. Is just go through retraction and protraction of the scapula. And you realize that you'll be able to get a few more reps than what you could when your failure point of your actual row occurred. Now, you can do varying angles of this, but really for like trap work, 90 degrees with the torso and the upper arm to about 45 degrees. So you could do this like leaning back on a seated cable row is something that I really like to do. You can do like this upper back type of shrug or row into the shrug. Also, there's plenty of back machines that function well where you're kind of positioned with the upper arm 45 degrees with the torso and easily able to do a shrug that's going to target that area well. So why is it a Kelso Shrug? Well, Paul Kelso wrote a book 2002 called Kelso's Book of Shrugs. So check that one out. Did these in powerlifting. This has been around for a long time. But if you're not getting a lot of direct stimulus to the trap and the other main movements alone have not been enough for you, add in Kelso Shrugs. How to program them. So you can simply do these after your row work. You fail in your rows, do some Kelso Shrugs. You could have this be its own separate thing as well. You could do your back work at the end, go to your T-bar row, hit some Kelso Shrugs as your shrug pattern. If back is a priority to you, put that movement early in the session. You don't need to do necessarily Kelso Shrugs, but you could do your row into your Kelso Shrugs as your first lift of the day. If you need overall back development, maybe this is 2 back sessions a week. You can start with lat work, then into your trap work. In the other session, you could do your trap work into your lat work. As far as the volume goes, if you haven't done Kelso Shrugs at all, start with 3 sets in a session. Assess and see how that goes. And then you could have your second back session of the week, do another 3 sets. That's 6 sets total of direct trap work on top of your other back work that you're already doing. Now, Assess that after 8 weeks. Are you recovering? Can you handle more volume? You could go up to doing 6 sets twice a week easily. And that's how I would program utilizing these within your sessions. So if you're not seeing trap growth off your traditional lifts, it's not enough stimulus for you, add in Kelso Shrugs. If you want more tips on cueing these lifts and exercise setup, check out our course in J3U called the Applied Hypertrophy course. It takes you through fitting yourself into the right movements for you and how to cue those to get the most hypertrophy possible. Also, we have our level 1 course that's the A to Z, how to bodybuild, you name it. Peak week, off season, contest prep, we cover it all. Thank you all for tuning in, and I'll talk to you next time.